given the success of Drive to Survive and how that kind of exploded F1's popularity in the States. Um, how could that be kind of a similar thing for NASCAR, and what does the portrayal of our sport need to be to, I guess, attract the masses?
Well, that's a deep question. What does the portrayal of our sport need to be to attract the masses? I should have known that one before I came here. I would have wrote something down like a
That's the
really.
second month in a row you've told me that.
Yeah,
I've blindsided you.
yeah, yes, yeah. Well, I mean, we all like a little bit of drama in soap operas, but I think for our sport, I always go back to the Ken Squire days because I always loved the way that he talked about the sport. Where we talk about kind of common men doing uncommon things and living on the edge of safety and all these other things. And I always thought that it was so compelling. And when I would go back as a kid and rewatch the old CBS races with him on, I was just so thoroughly entertained by that mentality. And one of the things I always find so interesting about our sport is that we work so hard for safety, and that's important. We should always work towards it, but we almost to some degree tell the story too much because it is still pretty dangerous, and it's like we're trying to convince ourselves that it's safe. When you come here weekends like this, and some other things, you see the big wrecks, and it's like we're trying to make ourselves feel better about it by telling the safety story. But on the some side of it, it's kind of like, well, maybe we shouldn't talk so much about it. Like maybe I think we almost water it down for fans, and they don't understand just how dangerous it still really is to be a race car driver and to race cars or trucks or whatever it might be for a living. And so that's a really long-winded way of saying, I love the way the sport used to be covered back in the Ken Squire days. And, if we can tell that story, I think it would resonate. And that would be my personal preference.
Gwen DeRue, Birmingham Times. You've been around Birmingham a few times.
Yeah.
Children's of Alabama a few times. Are you still affiliated with them or doing something with them presently?
Not at this time, but I've got to do some great things in this area. Especially with servicemen and servicewomen, and that's always been very rewarding to me. I really love coming here. I feel, for whatever reason, just a really strong bond. I got a lot of fans in this area, and I'm sure certain some of that's from, winning races here. But I think it just, I just enjoy being here and enjoy being around the people here and seeing them kind of let loose and, enjoy the race weekend. It's always so interesting coming here because until this year, I feel like every time you come here, there's no cell phone service or none of those, creature comforts, and it feels like kind of going back in time. I'm almost glad that my phone doesn't work sometimes. Hold on, I gotta hedge myself on that one. But it's always just a fun place for me to come here. Is it Gwen? Yeah, it's a fun place for me to come. We've got some great fans, and we get to do some great things for charities throughout the years and meet some people. And it's fun for me because I'm 14 years now into the Cup Series, and it's in some ways gone really slow, in some ways gone really fast. And one of the things that makes it still fun and still rewarding is coming and seeing people like, oh, I saw this person, 8 years ago and haven't seen them since, or I just went and did a thing in the campground and like, oh, I was here for your first win in '09, and to hear them tell the stories, and that makes it really special to be a veteran in the sport. But it certainly doesn't change the hunger I have.
All right, additional questions for Brad? Okay, we're going to come up front to Lee, then we'll go to Kelly.
Lee Spencer, catchfeds.com. Brad, what do you remember your first win here? I mean, I know after that it was like not a running joke, but the fact that you got your mother a housekeeper. Mm-hmm. I mean, with all the kids that she had and everything that she had done for you, you thought that would be a nice gesture. But what do you remember of that win and just, being with Finch and being a development driver for Hendrick at the time? I mean, just so much seemed to change on that day.
Yeah, I guess now I look back and I couldn't have pinpointed it then, but I can pinpoint it better now. I remember feeling like, I had a big case of imposter syndrome, like I'm not supposed to be here, and, it felt very surreal. And I imagine a lot of people the first time they win a cup race probably feel that way to some degree. And then just kind of this, riding this high of maybe I will make it in the sport, because you never know, especially early in your career, like if you're going to have any staying power. Especially, and that hits home watching the truck races here. And somebody had posted a stat online about how none of the last 5 winners from the truck race were even in the race today. And like that's kind of like personifies the fear that I think you have as a race car driver, especially in your early years in the Cup Series when you haven't won a race and you haven't had any of that success, and you're stuck thinking to yourself, something to the effect of, this could all disappear tomorrow. And when you win that race, when you win a Cup race, that feeling doesn't go away, but you just feel like a little more comfortable in your own skin, and it's a super unique feeling of confidence and staying power that I don't really, I'm not sure I know how to explain, but I'll never forget that. It's probably the strongest memory and thought that I have of it. Oh, probably.
Okay, Kelly.
KellyCrandallRacer.com. Brad, you are the only playoff driver through 4 races with top 10s in each of those races. How far can consistency take this team? You've been in the playoffs before. You know how this works. How far can that continue to keep you guys going?
I guess it depends on if you have stage points or not. If you put up good stage points, that'll, I think, take you all the way to Phoenix. I feel like it's going to take in this round, 110 points, and probably the next round is going to take 125 to 130 points, and top 10s with stage points will get you there in the races. But you also know inevitably you're not going to be able to continue to top 10 your way through it, right? You're going to have to actually put up wins and then all those other things, top 5. So. I know that's coming too, that we need to execute those pieces. But when you're not in a spot to win, I think it's important to get those points. And then it's important to have solid days. And especially in these early rounds, I think that's kind of a good ethos for our team to operate under.
Is your confidence growing with every race in the playoffs of just what this team is capable of and how far you guys maybe can go versus what the expectations were?
Yeah, it's funny. Now that I'm wearing the team owner hat, I sit in different meetings than I used to. Some good ones too with competition. Don't get me wrong, but I was sitting in a financial meeting going over budgeting, which is everybody's favorite topic, and we got to talking about how in the company budget we had 14th and 16th. And now after making it through the round of 12, getting to the round of 8, the budget projections change, and those are moments I think hit hard or hit home where you're like, yeah, what, actually this is better than what we thought. This is better than what we, not what we hoped for, but than what we thought might happen. And so, we're on a good path, but you try not to take anything for granted, Kelly. I think we could go out and put up goose eggs this weekend, and if you take your eye off the ball in this sport for 1 second, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Okay, we're going to go to Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. How difficult is it as a driver if you're second on the last lap, if you're leading on the second on the last lap, to determine when to make your move, in the sense of, do you want to make it as soon as possible, knowing you leave yourself vulnerable, maybe coming out of 4, but if the caution comes out, you win, or wait and maybe watch that opportunity go away? How do you, in that 50 seconds of that last lap, how do you assess how to make that decision?
To some degree, I've let go thinking about that, Dustin, because I've had races here where I've won and lost where you're in position to make the move and the yellow comes out and you just literally pass the start-finish line. You didn't even get an opportunity to make the move, and you're like, oh, I should have made the move. Then over time, I've had races where I feel like we've gotten into a spot to where we're the leader on the last lap and it falls apart. Where you get your doors blown off. You're like, oh, I was up front too early. And I think it's Talladega, Daytona, these tracks are really easy to overthink. And not that you don't want to put the effort in or the workload and all that, but sometimes you have to just allow yourself to accept the fact that there's only certain pieces you can control, that being one of them. Like what's going to happen on the last lap. Do you want to be leading? Do you want to be second? there's so many circumstances around that you can't control, whether it's a yellow coming out, as I was just saying, or the line behind you formulating the right way or the wrong way. That to some degree you want to get in position to strike and just be thankful for that and hopeful that you don't do anything to screw it up and let kind of circumstances dictate from there. But ultimately the goal for me is I don't ever think about it like, hey, I want to be in the lead or I want to be second. On the last. I don't really think about it that way. I think about it more so of I want to just be fortunate enough to be in the top 2 or 3 to, if things go my way, they'll go my way.